If you want to connect with people in today's world, you can't be timid and hesitant to make connections on digital and social media platforms in order to leave a footprint that matters. And according to my friends over at LinkedIn, 71% of small and medium-sized businesses use social media to tell a digital and compelling story, which is guaranteed to leave a positive impression and encourage people to come back for more. 52% of entrepreneurs and business owners who post at least once a day on platforms such as Facebook and Instagram. At least once a day, engagement is at least 10 times higher than other brands who do not. Businesses who regularly post on these social media platforms often see a sizable return on their investment because an estimated total of 200 million people visit at least one business profile every day. That's good news for my friend Luke Lintz, who is a driven 24-year-old entrepreneur and CEO who launched his first e-commerce business at the age of 16, turning an $8,000 investment into a staggering 375% return on investment in just 90 days. Today, Luke is the CEO of HighKey Enterprises, a Puerto Rico-based digital branding powerhouse that's worked with some of the biggest names in entertainment, music, and everything in between, from Kevin Hart to Snoop Dogg to Cardi B, just to name a few. HighKey Enterprises has one goal: to help you develop PR strategies that increase the value of enterprises from all over the world. And Lentz joined me this week to tell me more about how we can all optimize our digital branding presence and tell an effective and lasting social media story. He also tells me all about his rise to prominence at such a young and tender age. I'm Kevin McShann. Let's have this conversation. First and foremost, my friend, I want to welcome you to the program, my friend, and I'm super excited to learn all about your background in entrepreneurship, digital branding, and everything in between, my friend. Great to see you, and thank you for a few minutes today, buddy.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. I'm looking forward to this. Hope the audience gets a ton of value.
Absolutely. Now, Luke, I know that you have quite the entrepreneurial story and journey, my friend. You started your first company at the age of 16 when you stepped out of your high school classroom, my friend. So I'm wondering if we can begin our conversation by you telling me about the start of your journey, my friend, and what makes you so fabulous.
For sure. So I actually started my journey in high school going into grade 11, where I started my first business with my older brother and a good friend of ours. And we were actually the first ever wireless earbuds to be sold in North America. So at a very young age, I was able to find Alibaba, which is basically a wholesaling site based at China where you can wholesale purchase products. And so we purchased wireless earbuds that we saw there, and we basically white labeled them with our branding, and we were the first ever to sell them in North America. And they were kind of a hit right from the get-go all the way in high school. And we just started the journey in business that way, made an absolute ton of mistakes. And it evolved into us working with influencers to promote the product. And then eventually we transitioned into a social media agency and a PR firm because we wanted to deliver the services that we did for ourselves to other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm fascinated to ask you about the concept of business discipline at such a young age. What motivated you to stay disciplined and focused when you first started out in business, my friend?
Yeah, I think as you go through the entrepreneurial journey, or really just any journey in life, the things that motivate you, especially for the things that make you get up every single day, work long hours, and stay extremely disciplined, change over time. I think at the beginning, my discipline came from just wanting to get out of my current situation. I was in high school. I wanted to search for independence. I wanted to move out on my own, live on my own. And so it was basically just wanting to accumulate money and wanting to work on a business and a vision that would allow me to get that freedom in life. And then as I progressed through my journey of entrepreneurship, what it led to is a motivation where we started accumulating a lot of team members onto our team that basically were dedicating their entire life to HighKey. And so my motivation turned into, you know, being there and showing up every single day for the people that are committing their lives to HighKey.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know over the last 8 years, buddy, you've built up your business skill set and your acumen on social media to build high key enterprises into the budding superstar that it is today, my friend. So tell me about your business and what makes it so fabulous, buddy.
Yeah, so the business that we have right now is a PR firm. We work with like top level entrepreneurs in growing their personal brands and business brands, strictly their digital presence. So we focus on social media and press. And the things that really set us apart is the guarantees that we put in place. We're kind of working in an industry where traditionally there are no guarantees. And when you approach other PR firms, they don't give you any guarantees of any sort of results. And so we wanted to come into this industry, so to speak, and be the ones to deliver absolute guarantees where it's completely transparent right from the beginning that these high-level business owners know the results that they're going to be getting before they sign up with any program. So that's really what sets us apart in this industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm fascinated to ask you, how do you define business confidence, my friend? What does that concept mean to you?
Business confidence, I see that as the person who's running the ship in business, who's the CEO in business or the owners or the founders in business, having the confidence in themselves and in the business of success because they're the ones who are leading. Like me as the CEO, I'm the one leading the vision of HighKey. And so if I don't have confidence in the vision of being the person who's leading everybody else, then that's not going to instill confidence in the rest of the team. And people work for other people because they want to have confidence, certainty that you're going in the right direction in life. And I think how confidence is built is by following through. I've said this on my channels a ton, is that I see confidence being built as committing to something, saying that you're going to do something, and then staying true to your word. That's how internal confidence is being built. You're staying true to the things that you're telling yourself that you're going to do. And far often, and maybe your audience can think about this, is how often do you say that you're going to do something and then don't follow through with it? Did you say that you were going to work out today and then didn't follow through with it? Did you say that you were going to eat healthy all week and then not follow through with it? Those little actions seem like such little things, but they deteriorate the part of the brain that builds confidence within ourselves by every single action that we take that isn't in alignment with the things that we told ourselves we were going to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, Luke, based on your experience in the social media realm of things and digital branding, preparing for this interview, I found out that over 200 million people visited at least one business profile each and every day on social media, my friend. So tell me, how do you think businesses and people who are in sort of the marketing and branding space can really provide themselves with a long-term and sustainable presence on social media. What do you think the key is there, my friend?
Yeah, that's a great topic. And I think the best way to look at it is the brand that you're developing online is to look at how you should be looking at anything in life, which is with the most long-term mentality possible. You should be going into any brand building aspect of your business, like posting on social media, getting articles on Google, or doing anything about your brand presence in the most long-term perspective of you being in business for 10 plus years. So if you want to talk specifically about social media and the content that people should be posting to be in the game for 10 plus years and to be consistently there in front of their audience and building that brand, it all comes down to what can they speak about for that extended period of time and stay consistent about it. And so the best type of content that you can post is the things that are authentic to yourself. That's why we like building personal brands the most on social media, because it gives you the opportunity to be as authentic as possible and share all the stories of your life, all the stories that you went through, the struggles, problems, tribulations. You found those solutions, and then you're giving away those solutions to those problems so somebody else doesn't have to go through it to them for themselves. And so if you're able to share just all of your own life experience and all of the problems that you face, you'll never run out of content ideas ever, because you're constantly facing new problems and challenges as you go through life.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Luke, I'm going to tell you a quick story about myself. Anyone that watches or listens to my podcast knows that I was born with what's called spastic quadriplegia cerebral palsy. Simply means that I don't have enough oxygen in my legs to walk normally. And I found out actually at the age of 9, buddy, that I wouldn't be able to walk without the assistance of a walker for the duration of my life. So I've dedicated my life to helping businesses better infuse folks with disabilities into their workforce. So as a professional speaker, I go in to talk to businesses about inclusion and diversity. And one of the ways that I do that primarily is through social media and branding, my friend, because based on my disability, sometimes it's harder for me to network with other people. So I use this podcast and my other social media channels to tell an inclusive story. So I'm fascinated to ask you, what do you think it means to tell an inclusive business story?
Oh, this is amazing. And Kevin, thanks for sharing that, man. Honestly, your platform is such a inspiration for people around the world, because you're out there sharing your story and sharing struggles that you've been through and bringing on high level people with your platform. It's unbelievable, and it's impacting so many people's lives around the world, and will continue to as long as you do it. And that's the beautiful thing about brands. And so in terms of like the aspect of sharing a story, there's lots of different ways that you can tell stories on social media. But the best way that you want to tell stories is in a way that's transformational to the audience. So that's giving the most value to the audience. And how you do that is you are telling a story from your past. So you're reflecting on your own past in terms of all of the problems, struggles that you went through. And then you pick apart a specific part of the story, so part of your past, and then you figure out the problem and basically the struggle that you went through, so the teaching that was within that specific story. So you have the story, and then you have the teaching that was within that story, and then you finalize it and end it off with transformational question, a question that is thought-provoking to the audience, that makes them think about how your story and teaching relates to their current life, so that they can have an enlightenment moment to change within their own life.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, how do you define digital branding diversification? What do you think it means to have diversification within your digital brand?
Yeah, digital brand diversification is not being just on one social media platform, for example. It's being multi-channel, and having a social media following and presence across many different social media platforms at once, which can be extremely difficult because growing a following across multiple social media platforms takes a lot of time because you have to create native content to each social media platform. And so I usually tell people not to overstress or overthink it and just start with one social media platform immediately, and then branching off once they have a substantial presence on one.
Yeah, and Luke, we've talked a lot about social media and optimizing presence on that from a digital perspective, but it's also important that you're targeting the right audience. So I'm curious to ask you, how do you know you're really targeting the right audience with the content you're putting out, my friend?
Yeah, this is one of the hardest aspects of social media in terms of the target audience. And this is something that you might resonate with, where before this podcast, I believe my team asked you in terms of what age demographic your audience is, what pain points they're facing, and all of this. And the main thing is it's in the preparation work that you need to figure out which audience you're targeting on social media, and then therefore is what you use to create the content. And so you need to be collecting as much data as possible. And ideally, you're trying to resonate with the people you're doing business with to your target demographic of social media. That's an ideal situation. But most people, when they're posting social media content, growing a social media following, the best type of content that they can create is giving help to their younger self, because you've been on a path your entire life and you've solved problems and struggles throughout your life path. So the most resemblance that you can have in your life is by giving advice to your younger self.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, based on your age and experience in business and your digital and social media acumen, my friend, I wanted to ask you about creating a positive culture on social media, because social media can be a powerful tool for good, but a lot of people tend to use it for self-serving or nefarious purposes. But I'm curious to ask you, how do you think we can create a more positive culture on social media?
For sure. And I'll tell a personal story with this is when I first started on social media and when I first started making money in my business, I definitely was extremely ego fueled and ego filled. And the reason I posted on social media was purely for the point of gaining attention and gaining validation through the pictures that I posted. Like on Instagram, for example, the only things that I posted ever were pictures of us with celebrities, pictures of me with my Lamborghini, all of these things that were just super ego based and didn't give any value to the audience. But it got a lot of traction because it was very flashy and out there, and people, usually commentate towards those types of things because it derives like very strong emotions. But how we need to switch that is on social media, you have to think about it as a serving others platform where you're trying to give as much value as possible to your audience, serve others through the content that you're giving. And that's the mentality I'm trying to go through now. Is I actually spend the most time of anything right now creating content because I'm truly trying to help the younger generation. I'm not selling any courses to the younger generation. I truly just want to give the life lessons that I've learned, and hopefully impact just even a couple of lives would be fulfilling to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And Lucas, you mentioned you started your business journey with your brother, my friend, and I have to tell you that I have an identical twin brother and two sisters, so I know what it's like to collaborate with family. So tell me, when you started your business journey, what was it like working with your brother specifically? And what piece of advice would you give to anyone that wants to go into business with family?
Oh, this is great. Working with your siblings and family has its unique set of challenges, but I think the most valuable component of working with family is the undeniable trust and loyalty that you have with the other person. You've gone through your entire life with them. And especially if you had a difficult upbringing, you've gone through struggles very, very early on in life. You've built up the characteristics to overcome those struggles, not only by yourself, but with your family members, especially if it's like your brothers, like it's the brotherhood there, where me and my brothers, we went through our own individual struggles through childhood, which built up very favorable characteristics for running a business, like grit, like resilience, all of these things that allowed us when we went into the business world to make it very easy never to quit and just keep pursuing what we needed to do. And you only lose in life if you quit. And so being with my brothers, that was amazing, of having that trust and loyalty and having similar characteristics that we built up from our childhood. The problems is that there's not really a barrier in between like a personal life and a business life. And so a lot of the times it's intermingled, where when we get together, we're talking about both business and personal things at the same time. And it can be very difficult for people to draw that differentiation and have a hard time with that in life. But I think running a business with your family is one of the most fulfilling things in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, if I asked you to close your eyes and come up with your business non-negotiables for success and your top three principles for success, what do you think those principles would be and why?
So this would be for like an entrepreneur who's trying to be successful and listening to the podcast.
Yeah, in terms of your business principles for success. Yeah.
For sure. So the first principle is kind of what I was touching on in the story with my brothers, would be grit and never quitting. Because you can't ever become great and you can't ever build a business if you quit at the first sense of failure. Like that, it's literally inevitable when you're going into business to not fail. And this is a problem with the current education system, where, well, actually, the education system as a whole, is that they teach people that failing is bad. I remember going through high school, and people in the audience can probably resonate with this, where you go through high school and you're told that if you fail and bring that home to your parents, that they punish you, or they give you a very bad remark, or they look at you in a distasteful way. And it makes you feel like you did something extremely wrong. And so school cultivates this energy of never failing. And we take that through into adulthood, where, especially when we're starting up a business, we think that failing is bad. And so we avoid it at all costs. But in business, you're inherently taking risks. And so you're inevitably going to fail. And so when you fail, you just have to accept it, embrace it, learn from it, and then not give into it and quit, but keep on pursuing it. The second non-negotiable would be taking on risk, which is kind of what I was touching on earlier. And the difference between somebody who works at a company and works for other people and works for business owners compared to a business owner is your risk tolerance. And so the amount of risk that you can take on. And so it's kind of hard to test that without taking the risks. So I would suggest for people, in any single person listening to this audience, is take risks as early on in life so that you can figure out how comfortable you are with those risks, and if you're up for taking on the amount of risks in business. Because if you can't take on risks, well, you're not going to take the risks necessary for business, but then you're just going to crumple when you lose a substantial amount of money, and then you're never going to be able to go on to the next level. I would say those are probably the two most important.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I'm also wondering your thoughts on the concept of business equity and equality, my friend. You know, I talk to businesses all the time about hiring inclusively and really diversifying their thinking and doing all the things to create a competitive advantage in business. So tell me, how do you define a business competitive advantage, and under the lens of equality and equity as well? What are your thoughts there, my friend?
Yeah, equality is a huge one. And I'll tell a personal story for me, is that I didn't really understand my own internal biases until I watched Layla Hormozi on YouTube talking about hiring. And we set up an extensive interview process for our company over the past couple of years that has brought in some unbelievable talent and has brought in just a really great culture at our company. And one of the major things was our entire team, who is part of the interview process, has become aware of their internal biases. And what it basically means is when you're interviewing somebody, or really just in life, when you're having any conversation or building any sort of relationship, you have your internal biases that are trying to figure out if the person across the screen or across the table is similar to you. So when you're talking with somebody, you can see this, is that you're picking up points and you're trying to figure out if the person shares similar qualities to you. And if they do, then you tend to gear towards starting to like them more. And what happens is that if you only hire people that are similar to you and have the same belief systems, born in the same areas as you, growing up in the same childhood, have all the same belief systems, then your diversity of thinking is all in the same way. And so you don't necessarily want to be comfortable in conversations when you're bringing people onto your team or hiring, or really any sort of relationship aspects. And a lot of the time, some of the best workers that we've hired, I've been uncomfortable talking with because their way of thinking is completely different than mine. And so that's a huge thing that I think about, like, diversity, is that, I try not to I try to be hypercritical of my internal biases because we have those. And I know they'll be magnetized to people who are similar to me. And we want to have as much diverse thinking across the company as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. So, look, my next question is kind of a scenario question, okay? So, if I wrote you a check today for $10,000 and I put you in a room in front of 1,000 people looking to optimize their social media presence or their digital branding presence, and I told you you had 3 days to create a course that people could take away, tangible takeaways to optimize their digital or social media presence, how do you think you would spend the time and the money, my friend?
That's really good. So I made a piece of content on this earlier, and I would really just drive home this one point. And I hope this sticks with at least one person in the audience, is creating content or building any skill set in life. So you have to treat social media like a business, where you wouldn't expect your business to succeed overnight, but for some reason, people expect their social media presence to succeed overnight. And what it really comes down to building this skill set, because it's a skill set around social media, building the skill set around being on camera, giving value to your audience, posting on social media, growing a following, those are all separate skill sets and skill sets of itself. And how you grow any skill set is through repetition and feedback. And so a personal story of mine is when I was first starting up a business, I actually created a YouTube channel with my brother before we started up in business in grade 10. And we created a YouTube channel where it was the first time of me being on camera. And all of the thoughts were going through my head of why I shouldn't be on camera. I was thinking about, oh my God, I'm not funny. I have a speech problem. I have a speech impediment. I had a huge stutter back then. And I didn't want other people to think less of me with being on camera. And so we ended up doing the YouTube channel for 8 months. And at the end of the 8 months of the YouTube channel, posting consistently, we ended off with 120 subscribers. And I decided to call it quits. And I was like, okay, we're quitting. This isn't going anywhere. It's a waste of time. And at the time, it was super devastating. I was like, wow, I just wasted 8 months of my life that I could have been hanging out with friends, hanging out with girls, hell, even playing video games. And what it came down to is I learned the skills of video editing because I was editing the videos for my YouTube channel. And I also learned the skills of being on camera. And so it was repetition and feedback. I was repeating the same action of being on camera every single day and then giving myself the feedback of editing the videos and watching myself back. And so literally anybody in the audience, if they're trying to grow on social media, if I was to create a 3-day course, it would fully be about them just repeating the actions of creating content, getting out there and starting to create content, just like you did, Kevin, just like I did. And you will get better over time through the repetition and then giving yourself your own feedback by watching the videos back over and over again and having other people watch that same content, and you will just naturally get better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I'm a big believer of following your passion and purpose. So why is your current calling, your passion and your purpose, my friend?
Yeah, my current passion is really around building my personal brand. And it's that because it gives me an outlet to do infinite amount of things. It gives me an outlet to teach others, to share the knowledge that I have, to document my past and document the present things that are going on, to give me that joy in the future of seeing how far I've come in the perspective of things. And so my passion is really just to grow my personal brand and post as much valuable content as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. And look, I'm curious to ask you about the fundamental concept of leadership and how leaders can really push themselves to maximize their fullest potential to get people to follow them, my friend. So how do you define elite leadership?
Yeah, elite leadership is leading by example. And I tell all the leaders within my company this is that leading by example is the best form of leadership possible because you're leading through your own actions. And nothing says something stronger than when you're directing a team in a certain way or directing a group of people in a certain direction and you're walking the talk. This also comes down to if you're posting social media content, you're in a sense being a leader to a group of people, the audience that you have. And so you, as a leader, you have the responsibility to be following through with the actions that you're saying. Because the last thing you want is to be judgmental of others, and you don't want to be a hypocrite in terms of saying one thing and doing the exact opposite. And so for myself, what I try and do is I constantly try and analyze the things that I'm saying on social media. Are they in resonance and are they aligned with the things that I'm doing in my day-to-day actions? Because the last thing I want to be is ever be a hypocrite, but I'm not perfect. And I try to adjust my actions if I'm saying one thing that I know is right.
Yeah, absolutely. And Luke, I want to share one final story with you about myself before we get too far away from it, my friend. You know,
For sure.
I fell into becoming a speaker by accident, Luke. So I graduated college in 2010 with a sports journalism degree, Luke. And when I applied for jobs and went into get a job as a sports journalist, I was rejected by no less than 10 news directors at the time because they looked at me, Luke, and they said, you have a lot of passion and purpose and drive for our business, but because of your disability, we view you as a liability, and unfortunately, we can't put you out onto the field in the field because we view it as a liability for our company and our business. So what I did out of college, Luke, is I volunteered for 4 years as a volunteer sports reporter and general assignment reporter. And because I love the craft so much, you know, I produced a total of 50 stories on my own for the local television station. And from that, our provincial government, I live in Canada, so a provincial government would be the same as the state government. So our provincial government found me and they said, you have a lot of knowledge and purpose for hiring people with disabilities and you know how to communicate a message. So they hired me to run a program called the Discoverability Network, which was the province of Ontario's first online job matching portal for folks with disabilities and employers to get connected. And I share that story with you because I wanted to ask you about staying consistent and resilient in business. So, what do you think it means to be consistently resilient when it comes to brand messaging or in business in general? So, what does it mean to have resilience in business to you, my friend?
Hey, Kevin, that's an amazing story. Amazing story. And like what that teaches the audience just with that story right there is when one door closes in life, another one opens. And you had the foresight to and the resilience to, despite the circumstances of the situation and despite what that one person said, you took life into your own hands and you started up your own career and look at where you are now, which is absolutely amazing and beautiful. And so like that's the aspect of resilience is, and I talk about this in the circumstance of like what it means to be a high value man as well. And a lot of it is resilience, and it's doing things despite your circumstances. You know, the world and life doesn't care. Other people in the world doesn't care about your circumstances, where you were born, how much money you had growing up, the type of person you are. Like nobody cares about that, and they really just care about like the path that you're going on in your current and future state. And so that's all made up on doing things, doing the actions despite your circumstances. And this is also comes back to what I was saying before of staying true to your word, where if you're saying that you're going to do something, following through with that, and it just makes it easier and easier every single time that you do that. Each consecutive time that you make a promise to yourself and you stay committed to that promise, it makes it easier the next time because you're that much more confident in the things that you say. And it would be that much worse if you broke a promise to yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Luke, I know that you've worked with some high-profile celebrities, including Kevin Hart, the Kardashians, and Cardi B, just to name a few of my friends. So tell me, how has working with these high-profile people influenced you, and what's been your favorite thing to work on with some of your high-profile friends, my friend?
Yeah, I've definitely been gifted with being able to work with some very high-level celebrities. Like Kevin Hart, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj. I think working with them, I've realized that it's really put in perspective working with high-level celebrities that they are just like every other person. And what really got instilled in me with working with high-level celebrities is that everybody in life, no matter how successful you are, how famous you are, no matter any single person listening to this podcast right now, Kevin, you, myself, we all go through our own problems and struggles in life. And there's no way of avoiding those problems and struggles. And every single person has them, and every single person is dealing with them in life. And so the biggest lesson it taught me is that in life, the goal is not to avoid or be able to get away from problems, because they'll always be there no matter what level you're at, no matter where you're at. The goal should always be to get better at dealing with problems and that gives you the ability to be able to take on bigger and better problems, so to speak, in life and be able to deal with those things easier.
Yeah, and Luke, I've got a two-part question and then one final question for you. And I'll start with the two-part question, my friend. And I'm curious to ask you, what does it mean to you to dominate sort of your passion and your purpose in life and really define the life that you want to live? And for any younger entrepreneur who may be watching this today, I'm wondering if you could give them a roadmap of sort of encouragement and inspiration on how to really believe themselves as they first start out in business. So you can take that question any way you wish, my friend.
For sure. So for the younger generation, I was there not too long ago. I was 16 years old, completely lost, just starting up my first business, having no idea what it was going to turn into, with not that much money and not that much direction in life, in business or just in life in general. And I think the best way to form your mindset, especially when you're just getting started, is, for me personally, was looking at the worst case scenario. So like anybody in the audience can easily do this, where if, for example, they're starting up a business or starting up a side hustle in high school or university, or even older in life, is looking at what's the worst case scenario that could happen. For myself personally, when I was 16 starting up the business, I thought, okay, I could miserably fail for the next 8 years. So I was 16. I could miserably fail for the next 8 years, be 24. The majority of my friend group would be graduating university. I could go bankrupt, like literally take on $1 million of debt, go bankrupt. And at the end of those 8 years, as long as I learned more doing the actions and starting up the business than I would have learned going through university. So real world applicable knowledge, then in my eyes, I succeeded. And so like that mentality relieved me of a lot of the stress, because as I went through every single day, it wasn't even about making money. It was just, how can I learn and absorb the most information possible, where I'd be gaining more information than in university. And it's actually so much easier to be motivated to learn knowledge when you're doing something that you actually like doing, because you're being able to actionably you're able to like take action and utilize the knowledge that you're learning right away and get immediate feedback on it while you're going through business. And so I would say, for somebody who's younger generation, just to start on something, try and start a business around something that you really like doing, because you're going to learn very quickly because you actually like doing the thing. So learn as much as you possibly can, and just really think about the worst case scenario if you ever get extremely fearful, or if you ever don't know what you want to do in life.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Mm-hmm.
Luke, my final question for you has to do with, if I told you you only had 24 hours to live and I wanted you to write the final chapter of your life, and I told you that the people reading your final chapter of life were only going to read the last sentence of the page of the page that you wrote, my friend, how do you think you would spend the last 24 hours of your life? And how do you want your legacy to be defined, my friend?
Yeah, I want my legacy to be defined as anything is possible in life. Anything is possible in life that you set yourself towards. And so, yeah, that's definitely how I ideally want people to look at the actions that I'm taking and then my life's journey, and think about that and be like, wow, yeah, like anything in life is possible. I just have to, set my direction on that, work extremely hard, stay true to my actions and self-worth, and continue pursuing the journey.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I give you the last 24 hours of your life, buddy, how would you spend it?
In the last 24 hours of my life, I hope to spend it with my family. Yeah, my brothers. Yeah, the people, and just really just sharing stories and having a good laugh. I think that's one of the best things. Andrew Tate actually said this. I don't agree with a lot of things that he said, but I did agree with this, where he's like, no matter how rich you get, no matter how wealthy that you get in life, one of the best things in life that you'll never be able to purchase is just sitting around with the brothers, sitting around with a group of guys and having a great laugh and sharing experiences, reflecting on the past, and just having an extremely good laugh. And it's like, that's the pinnacle of life. Life doesn't get too much better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. And my friend, finally tell me, Luke, if people want to get connected with you, my friend, what's the best and most effective way they can do that?
Yeah, for sure. Best way would just be on Instagram at Luke Lintz. I know I have a decent amount of followers, but I try and respond to all of my DMs. So yeah, if you just send me a DM with anything that you're trying to learn at Luke Lintz, yeah, I'll respond.
Fantastic, my friend. Well, I want to thank you for spending part of your weekend engaging in conversation with me about life, social media, branding, business, and everything in between, my friend. Your life story and business journey is certainly inspirational, my friend. You're off to a fast and exhilarating start to your life, my friend. So I just want to commend you for all the success that you've had, and I want to thank you for engaging in conversation with me this weekend. It's most appreciated.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me on, and thanks for anybody listening to this in the audience. I really appreciate it.